Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy announces he's ready to sign the mineral agreement with the United States after all. Democrat governors desperately cling to discriminatory policies amid extreme unpopularity, and the South Carolina wildfires continue to grow, in part due to the Biden administration's forest management policies. I'm Tony Kinnett from the Daily Signal's nationally syndicated Tony Kinnett Cast. It is Monday, March 3rd, 2025. This is the Daily Signal's top news in 10. The fallout continues from the Trump-Zelenskyy botched negotiation in which Zelenskyy demanded ambiguous security guarantees on top of the existing mineral deal proposal in the Oval Office. After a 40-minute pleasant chat and a tense 6-minute argument, Zelenskyy left the White House and the signing was canceled. After a terse interview with Fox News' Bret Baier, Zelenskyy traveled to the United Kingdom to meet with Prime Minister Keir Starmer, King Charles III, and other European leaders. At this conference, the European leaders discussed financial and military aid, funding for defense capabilities, strategies to achieve what they called a sustainable peace agreement. Keir Starmer shocked the world by announcing a £1.6 billion deal for Ukrainian air defense missiles and this formation of a coalition of the willing, aimed at enforcing peace in the Ukraine, which includes deploying
boots on the ground and planes in the air.
Now, the left responded to the entire situation, all the way from the Trump argument in the Oval Office over to the UK mineral deal by just acting silly. James Carville, the strategist credited for getting Bill Clinton in the White House, used the opportunity to claim Trump had an STD.
You didn't say this. I'm talking about madness like King George III kind of madness. And it could be a combination of being a fat slob, which of course he is. But I think we should revisit the possibility of a syphilis diagnosis.
Believe it or not, that was one of the more tame responses. Former White House spokesman for President George W. Bush Pete's seat and Democrat Representative Eugene Vindman of Virginia, you know, the guy from the first Trump impeachment hearings, famous for not understanding at all how foreign policy works, they got into a big fight on a CNN panel. In case you've had a pleasant weekend and you've missed the general behavior online and in the media, here's what that looked like.
I want to know why our ally is allowed to disrespect the United States of America, the leader, the current leader of this free
J.D.
world.
Vance owes Zelenskyy an apology. President Trump owes Zelenskyy an apology for the way he was treated.
For what?
I demand it.
What?
I demand that they give.
You demand. Okay, UN resolution number 2.
If you're going to go ahead and say preposterous things like Zelenskyy owes an apology for being attacked, I'm going to go ahead and say something outrageous. Actually, I'm going to go.
The price of you say that Ukraine wants peace.
I think J.D. Vance should resign. How about that? We're just going to go through crazy stuff into the air.
You say Ukraine wants peace.
Yeah.
If Zelenskyy wanted peace, then he would have kept his mouth shut.
What? He did until there were lies. What?
Until there were lies.
J.D. Vance didn't lie about anything. They were talking about diplomacy.
That wasn't.
That's not what he was
responding
to
today.
That's not what he was responding to.
No one said that.
On the international left, many different individuals tried to claim that Zelenskyy was some kind of Churchill, or they described him as the new leader of the free world, that he would be facing the United States along with Russia in the next World War. Really silly stuff. But that has started to leach into particular actions. One Norwegian company has refused to sell fuel to a U.S. Virginia-class nuclear submarine, the USS Delaware, causing it to turn around and return to a different port. This fuel would have refueled its auxiliary Cat diesel engine. The Norwegian company in question is Haltbach Bunkers, who's announced that they will no longer be providing fuel to any vessel in the United States Navy. Now, after Zelenskyy announced that he would be willing to finally sign the U.S. minerals deal, the Norwegian company deleted its post announcing the blockade of U.S. naval vessels. How about that? Here in the United States, Trump's administration and allies continued to support the president and vice president. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, reaffirmed the United States' commitment to brokering peace between the Ukraine and Russia.
We'll be ready to re-engage when they're ready to make peace, which is clearly what the president's goal is here. He's trying to get Russia to the table to see if there's a way to bring about an end to this conflict. That's his goal. That's his only goal. That's his centralized focus. And, hopefully we'll get to a point where that's possible.
Now, however, Zelenskyy has announced he's finally ready to sign the mineral agreement with the United States after all.
We were ready to sign it, and honestly, I believe that the United States would be ready as well.
President Trump responded by clipping what appears to be a piece of an article on Truth Social, saying now Zelenskyy will have no choice but to back down and accept Trump's terms. But here's the genius part. Trump is actually protecting Ukraine without dragging the U.S. into war. By negotiating a mineral deal, as opposed to a series of security guarantees or accepting the country into NATO, Trump ensures that Americans will be involved in Ukraine's mining industry, which prevents Russia from launching an invasion because attacking Ukraine would mean endangering American lives and the American economy, something that would then force the U.S. to respond. Then Trump includes the latter part of the piece of the article in which praises Trump for being a master negotiator. Again, this is the same Trump cycle of negotiation played over again and again and again. Trump wants something. Trump makes some type of hyperbolic or unorthodox statement to get what he wants. Everyone claims this isn't going to work and that it's going to end up terrible. And then the individual Trump has targeted for action ends up giving him concessions, and Trump gets most of what he wants. Meanwhile, though companies like Disney, Anheuser-Busch, PepsiCo, General Motors, Intel, Comcast, Boeing, and Lockheed Martin, a lot of the American corporate sector, are giving up all of their diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI policies due to their unpopularity with the American public, Massachusetts Governor Healey says that CEOs are actually in favor of DEI and gets clapped back on this pretty quick.
Talk to any CEO, major, Fortune 500 company. They'll tell you that their bottom line, dollar-wise, does better when there's more diversity in the room.
But many of these...
That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's made us stronger.
Many of these companies, though, are ditching their DEI
programs.
programs.
I don't know why.
This kind of attitude is in line with Maine's Governor Mills, who also thinks that Americans are wholly in support, the Maine House as well, wholly in support of this LGBTQ plus discriminatory policy idea. Maine is currently fighting the Trump administration. Things are heating up. An individual we interviewed on the Tony Kinnett cast, Maine Representative Laurel Libby, was censured by the Maine legislature for speaking out against the transgender athletes, the men, participating in women's sports. Also, the South Carolina wildfires are getting much worse. According to a statement from Governor Henry McMaster's office, more than 4,200 acres have been impacted by the over 175 wildfires that are currently burning across the state. This update was given on Sunday morning. The governor has ordered evacuations of the affected areas and the areas of likely impact, and there has been a state of emergency declared. Now, during the last couple of years, which means during the Biden administration, policies like Biden's Executive Order 14072 focused on old and mature forests, in which case the Biden administration ordered through the United States Department of Agriculture that forests were not allowed to be maintained because maintaining forests, going through and clearing out dead trees, underbrush, actually starting some small fires in places in order to clear out a lot of old buildup, the Biden administration claimed that that was somehow going to harm old growth and mature forests. Think old endangered trees. Even though for thousands of years on this landmass, including through several of the Native American tribes, several small forest fire protection techniques like clearing out old growth and later on in early American life, not restricting logging and timber practices, kept the United States a lot safer from the threats of massive wildfires like those we saw in California just a couple of months ago. Though we can't say this is in response to the South Carolina or the California wildfires, President Trump has just signed an executive order on March 1st, terminating all regulations and processes that delay the production of timber, lumber, paper, bioenergy, and other wood products, including those regulations which would have prevented forest management and logging practices in areas where old growth and lumber was present.
We don't need their lumber. In fact, we're going to be freeing up, and I've asked Howard Lutnick to get that done with Lee and everybody, Lee Zeldin, environmental. We're freeing up our forests. We're going to be able to take down trees. Right now, we're so restricted environmentally. We're going to be freeing it up with an emergency order. We have an emergency order.
This is along a series of executive orders and upcoming congressional actions from the Trump administration, which aim to lessen some of the regulations which have really crippled economic growth in the United States, specifically in the manufacturing and the industrial sectors of the country. Head down to the description and click the link to make sure you're subscribed to the Tony Kinnett Cast. Join us at 7 p.m. tonight, where we look at the record low number of illegal border crossings and examine why you didn't waste your time watching the Oscars this year. I'm Tony Kinnett, and this has been the Daily Signal's Top News in 10. Take care.